What's up, everyone? Welcome in, everybody. Thanks for popping on. I appreciate it. I am just getting everything ready. There we go. I think I have everything I need. I hope everyone's having a great Thursday, or whatever day it is. Sup, Mist on YouTube. The man, the myth, the AI. That's right. You don't know that I'm not AI, right? You have no idea. Can't prove it. Therefore, it's true. The logic is sound. So yeah, welcome in. Thanks everybody for being here, wherever you're watching. X, Kick, whatever, YouTube, LinkedIn, all of it. I multi-stream to a bunch of different places, and I appreciate all the views. And let's cover the news, shall we? I've got my coffee ready. All right, and let's get into it. Today I do have a mixed set of topics. Some of them are going to be more interesting than others, depending on who you are, but I'll try my best. I will try my best to be funny and charismatic for you, okay? Okay, you guys are so demanding. I get emails every day, every single day. Why aren't you more charismatic? Literally those words. Be more charismatic. I'd watch more if you were more charismatic. It's like, shut up. Shut up. All right. We've got this guy. AI is spitting out garbage code, and vibe coders are shipping it anyway. So this article just talks about all the stuff that we've talked about before. This is what's happening out in the programming ecosystem. And essentially, I don't think I need to go over this very much, but the vibe coders are being recognized for shipping the sloppiest code you can possibly imagine. It's not even good enough to qualify as junior level code. And they continue to do it, and I'm glad to see articles like this. It's getting more attention. People are realizing that these AI systems cannot generate good code an overwhelmingly large amount of the time. It's crazy. As a matter of fact, I might go over one or two articles today. I don't remember everything I have lined up that go exactly over this. And the issue with this, so for example, I as a programmer am frustrated because then I have to go and look like this some nights, or I have to go and clean up code that was generated by AI. It's not often that I have to do that. It's pretty rare, honestly. But I do know of some people who do have to do that on a regular basis. And then you as a consumer have to pay for it, and you actually pay multiple times. Think about it this way. By the way, Laughly, good to see you on the Twitch side. How you doing? You pay OpenAI or ChatGPT, whatever you pay to have access to that LLM system. And it's great. For certain things that you do, it might even be fantastic. And for most things that you do, it's probably kind of crappy, let's be honest. But you pay for that. You have to pay for that. And if you're not paying for it, you're paying for it anyways. Do you know how? Because your data is being taken. And so one way or another, you're paying for it as a consumer. Then that money gets funneled into the same system that a programmer pays for to make that system train itself further to generate even more code slop. And then the programmer, like me, has to deal with the generation of code slop. And if you're a programmer using these systems, you probably are also paying for these AI systems as well, like we covered yesterday. So there's like a triple, almost quadruple payment. These AI companies are making bank. And in the meantime, we're all looking like this. We're not happy with the output. The tens of billions of dollars we're putting into these systems is not worth it. Generally, when you compare the output. Now, are there good use cases? There are good use cases. And there are times, I've covered this before, where if you can manage to keep the scope narrow for AI, then it will sometimes do okay. It will sometimes do okay. But that's like pretty much like in terms of coding, at least, that's the high end. It'll do okay. So I don't know. It's you know, it should frustrate you as a consumer. What's up, Ghost? Good to see you. Now, while I fix something real quick here, just give me a second. I'm gonna do something here on my off screen here. I just wanted to take a minute and just a sec, folks. Yeah, yeah, I know. I don't think that's gonna work. Okay, I'm gonna. Well, oh, it might work. Oh, let me see. Will it work? No, it won't work. Okay, I'm gonna have to solve that later. Okay, that's fine. All right. So let me do let me do this. We'll go on to the next article then. Fine, whatever. And I screwed up my screen, professional streamer. Okay, here we go. Even American AI models are spreading Chinese propaganda, report warns. Yeah. So what the hell is this about? A report by the American Security Project has surprisingly found that many AI models, not just Chinese ones, parrot Chinese Communist Party messaging. 5 popular LLMs were tested, with only one being Chinese, but all showing CCP-aligned bias. So here's what they did. The study here was that they used VPNs from LA, New York City, and Washington, D.C. They started a new chat each and every time they ran this test. So they wanted to have short, open-ended questions. That way that they weren't leading the LLM, kind of like I led the LLM with the Egyptian god thing, right? So they were trying their best to not point the LLM to a particular end game. So DeepSeek and Copilot showed that the models absorbed a lot of information that come directly from the CCP. Yeah. So there's some terms here that I can't even talk about, right? And I kind of have to skip over it very, very quickly because I don't even know if I can show it on screen without getting a warning. So I'm going to go off screen and you're going to have to take my word for it. All right. So essentially when they ask about the incident with, let's say the incident in that particular year with the protests, right? The amount of responses that were positively CCP as a result of like surrounding that particular incident. Well, DeepSeek and Gemini and DeepSeek and Copilot were kind of like downplaying it. Let's put it that way. Again, I can't use all the words. They were downplaying it. It's almost like it was in defense of the CCP, right? Like, it wasn't that big of a deal, whatever it is, right? So I think what the article is trying to point to, which I think is fundamentally something we can all agree on, the training data that's involved in these LLMs comes from human knowledge, stuff that's been written by humans that we've recorded, historical stuff, right? So it obviously makes sense that there's going to be some kind of nation state propaganda that bleeds into it. And why should China be exempt from that? Of course. So it's not a surprising thing for me to see that. Okay, let me pull up the next article. We've got this guy. So some legal decisions came down the pipe, and Anthropic can legally train AI on books without author's permission. So this doesn't surprise me, but Apparently, Anthropic is just burning through books and breaking. I guess it's now okay to break copyright law in some cases, depending on what's going on here. I haven't had a chance to read the reason why the judge said it's okay. I'm gonna have to take a minute when I have time and go look at this and determine why they decided that it was fair use. I'm not sure, but in terms of taking work that other people have worked hard for and reusing it for your own purposes, it seems like it's all good, man. That's what it looks like to me. It's all good. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how this plays out, because I have a feeling that it's not over. That would be my guess. There's probably going to be appeals and individual lawsuits and stuff, but I'm going to keep an eye on it. The next article, kind of in line with the entire producing sloppy code with AI. Well, these systems are now becoming more and more integrated into developers' tool chains. And so you have something like this. Google is bringing Gemini CLI to developers' terminals, and it's currently available for free. What this means is that these AI systems are basically more deeply capable of embedding themselves inside of your developer systems. That includes your command line interface. That's what a CLI is. So if you ever see somebody doing, well, I'll show you. If you ever see somebody doing like this, they open up the shell and they're like hacker mode, right? And then they like put in commands and stuff and all that stuff. That's in here, which is more, it's if you don't know, if you're not a programmer, then this will be far more ingrained into existing systems. So great. I guess we're just going to have more. It's just, it's not going to stop. This stuff's not going to stop. It's just going to expand more and more. Of course, Google wants to be in your command line interface. Of course they do. Why wouldn't they? It's perfect for them. All right, we've got this one. I don't know where these people get these numbers from. I have no idea where these people get these numbers from. Salesforce CEO says 30% of internal work is being handled by AI. What 30%? And it's not even 30% on the low end. How can you even say that? AI is doing 30% to 50% of the work at Salesforce now? What kind of work was being done? Job functions include software engineering and customer service. So, like, how on earth are you judging that this is the amount of work being done? What kind of work was being done beforehand? Are you sure that you're getting quality work out of the AI system that's doing these things? How do you know that? And then he goes on to say that the tool reached about 93% accuracy the way that they're using it, including for large customers such as Walt Disney. Where are these metrics coming from? How are you judging these things? I just can't comprehend how you come up with these numbers in reality. But from the perspective of an executive who has to make a company look good, I totally get it. This makes total sense. It's basically just, I don't know, what would you call it? High-priced salesmanship. That's what it is. It's high-priced salesmanship. But it's just so stupid. It's mind-bogglingly stupid to me, in my personal opinion. I don't even know how you do that. But in any case, there you go. I guess Salesforce is I don't know, doing whatever they're gonna do with that. It's so dumb. Hey Ross, good to see you. Thanks for popping in on the Twitch side. Ghosts, yeah, it'll come with next Windows built in. It already is. It already is. Yeah, we already have, there is already AI built into the next version of Windows where it watches everything you're doing. You can, I think it's turned off by default. You can turn it on. Yeah. He's a salesman. Yeah. And yeah, my boilerplate. Yeah, my boilerplate. All right. We have the big, beautiful bill. Do you guys know about the big, beautiful bill? About the triple B? You guys know about this? If you don't know about it, it's Damn it. I dropped my phone. Oh, sorry, folks. It's a bill that was passed through. I believe it passed, right? I believe it passed as of this morning. I was reading some news at the U.S. Is it Senate? I believe it's the Senate, isn't it? Look, I'm not American, okay? I'm Canadian, so I just do cursory reads of this stuff, and I'm probably getting it wrong. Anyways, the big beautiful bill by Trump. Okay, I called this out, and so have many others, honestly. So it's not just me. I'm not going to take all the credit here for having a portion of this bill that, it's in my article. Like, I should just open the article. I've read this. Senators reject 10-year ban on state-level AI regulation and blow to big tech. So the big beautiful bill had a 10-year moratorium on state regulation for artificial intelligence. And I talked about this before on a stream like 1 or 2 weeks ago, where I'm like, this is probably not a good idea. We probably don't want to have inability for states to regulate artificial intelligence. And part of the problem with why you don't want to do this, along with all the stuff we talk about where these things just generate a bunch of crap and slop, and they do so, and they in mass amounts, blah, 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 blah. You also have the cost of the data centers that's required to operate them, and they take a heavy toll on cities where they're built. They take up a huge amount of drinkable, potable water, for example, to the point where large swaths of cities and towns would end up not having the ability to have clean water. And so depending on which state you're in and the geography of the state and its accessibility to energy and other critical infrastructure, you would probably want states at least to be able to say, well, we kind of don't want you here, right? I'm glad that this got blocked. I think this is a good thing. That's my personal opinion. If you disagree, that's fine, and you're welcome to disagree with me and whatever. But you can tell me why. But I do think that these AI things in all forms should not just have like unfettered, unlimited access to everything without any control. I don't think that's a good thing. I think that leads to some bad stuff. So I'm glad that the senators were not smooth-brained on this, right? Okay, now this one. 70% of people are sick of talking to AI. Where did all the humans go? Customers want to speak with humans. I like this one. This one's good. For every one person who prefers interacting with AI, 4.4 prefer speaking with humans. 4.4 humans to every one human. Like speaking to other humans. I mean, baby boomers are seriously anti-AI when it comes to customer service, at least, and there's a value in human connection. So according to new research, let me zoom in here from Okta, 70% of consumers prefer interacting with humans, only 16% opting for AI agents over humans. In the UK, God bless the king, this trend is even more pronounced, with just 11% preferring AI agent interactions and 1 in 2, 54%, not even trusting AI with their personal data. This is good. This is good. I'm glad. Moreover, barely 1 in 3, 36%, see any real benefit in AI agents altogether, suggesting that the productivity-enhancing technology might not be at its most useful in customer service settings. I can agree with this. And that's it. I mean, that's essentially the article. And so there's some ratios here which are, maybe a little bit interesting. Ratio of those who prefer humans to those that prefer AI stands at 4.4 to 1. In the US, it's 4.2. In Japan, it's 3.4. Now, check this out. This is kind of interesting. In India, they're so sick of talking to each other in India. This is my takeaway. In India, people are so sick of talking to each other. 1.1 humans would rather talk to another human versus an AI. Oof. In any case, And then the baby boomers, millennials, Gen Z, etc. It's whatever. So there's the human touch, right? And I think that's the part that's currently insurmountable. I don't see a way that AI gets around this. And I think that's one of the several walls to AI, which I'm happy to see. A human understands my needs better, said 2 in 3 respondents. And this is the problem when you're talking to customer service. You don't get any level of empathy. Sometimes, you're talking to someone in customer service and it's like, do you understand my position? And sometimes, somebody on the other side does, because they're a fellow human. They can understand where you're coming from. AI systems can't really do that. So this is good. I'm glad to see this. This is a good thing. Listen, folks, there is one piece of advice that I would like to give to you. The problem of human connection has existed since before these LLM systems became popular. And social media and phones and, just technology in general has had a constant push and pull between human connection and digital connection. There is something to be said about video games. There are some studies that have shown that people who correlate around video games with common goals have similar human cohesion with other groups that come together for similar goals. So it's a little bit of a different beast. But please, to anybody who's out there right now, please go do the human connection. Please do it. I know it might seem uncomfortable and maybe even scary to some people. I fully understand why. I get it. But the human connection is really important. Don't give up on human connection in favor of these digital robots that don't actually care about, who you are as a human being. Go out there and meet people. Go talk to people and make friends in real life. It's really important. Do that. And I'll be honest, I know there's one person I can think of, for example, who I haven't checked in on in a while, a real life friend, and I know they watch sometimes, and I haven't checked in with them for a while. I feel bad about that, but the human connection is really, really important. Don't give up on that. We really need people to be a little bit more connected than we are right now. It's already in bad shape. Please go out there and do that. All right. Hey, Ghost. Frozen, I mean. Good to see you. Gen Z 2.3 worrisome, yeah. Hey, Abe on YouTube. Good to see you, man. D-Daver. What's up? Vamp. Come on, Vamp. Vamp on YouTube makes a stupid dad joke. How did death start reaping souls? It was just a scythe job. A Sith job. A scythe job? A scythe job? I don't even know, Vamp. Okay, get out of here, Vamp. All right, get out of here. Okay, next article. The computer science bubble is bursting. So what's happening, according to a statistical study, not really a study, but just some surveys, some statistics on computer science degrees. From 2005 to 2023, the number of comp sci majors in the United States quadrupled, all of which makes the latest batch of numbers so startling. This year, enrollment grew by only 0.2% nationally, and this is in the US, by the way, and at many programs, it appears to already be in decline, according to interviews with professors and department chairs. At Stanford, widely considered one of the country's top programs, the number of comp sci majors has stalled after years of blistering growth. If the current trends continue, the number of graduating comp sci majors at Princeton is set to be 25% smaller in 2 years than it is today. The number of Duke students enrolled in introductory computer science courses has dropped about 20% over the past year. And the reasons why? Well, there's a few, isn't there? And I'm sure we can all guess as to at least some of them. Young people think that the job outlook is grim for entry-level coders. There's been a massive set of layoffs in the tech industry, along with hiring freezes. Tell me about it. And the slowdown of tech itself, apparently, because AI is apparently more valuable as a writer of computer code than as a writer of words. Now, I don't know where these academic people got this idea. That's not really what I'm seeing. I'm not seeing it as more valuable for generating code than words. As a matter of fact, if you were to pin me, if you were to force me to pick one, I would say that AI is still more valuable as a writer of just general words rather than computer code. I think it's far worse at computer code by comparison. So I don't know where this comes from, but man, sometimes those academics, not exactly the most smart, high IQ people, in my personal opinion, as a high school dropout with less than room temperature IQ. In any case, this is going to be a problem. I think what's happening is, like I said before, AI is essentially all of the stupidest tech decisions in the past 10 to 20 years packaged up in a box. One of the stupid tech decisions that the entire industry has decided to do is to neuter the experience and the capabilities of smart individuals that actually do exist in our space. We do have a lot of smart individuals who are capable of doing quite a lot. And instead of leaning into that, what we've decided to tell them to do is to lean on abstractions and obfuscations and frameworks and libraries in a trust the experts bro setup. And a lot of them therefore miss the opportunities they would otherwise have to understand fundamentals of programming. And that was before LLMs. And now we have LLMs, and it adds to the fear factor of, well, what's the point of even trying then? And so we just remove people who would otherwise be capable in our industry from actually being capable in our industry. So it's a bad place to be. And I think there's going to be a lag effect where we see the outcomes of this for quite a while. And what this will mean for you as a consumer too is you're going to pay more for less. That's what I think is going to happen. You're going to pay even more than you currently are, and you're going to get less value out of the website, software, and video games that you already get today. It's going to become pricier and less valuable, unfortunately. I can kind of see it because code can be automatically tested, unlike words. Yeah, but DDAVR, we're not talking about like post, right? I see your point, DDAVR, but that's a post thing. Testing something that's already been generated is not really what's being stated here. What's being stated here is the generation quality out of the gate, exclusive of post, like reactionary, like testing of words, for example, or checking that the words make sense. If you exclude all that, then and look at only what's being output, the nature of the code that's being output by LLMs, I would argue, is not as good as the nature of just general word output. That's my opinion. Just my room temperature opinion. Then we have this one. This does not help the problem of people not jumping into computer science, unfortunately. If it will load. I'm not even sure if it will load. Let's see. Do I have the right link? I do. Okay. This will load. Let's do this. Microsoft is laying off as many as 9,000 employees. So you probably heard about this a little bit, and some of this definitely is programmers, developers, people in video game portions of their company. They've already done layoffs for LinkedIn, Blizzard, Xbox, etc. More of it's coming. So these companies are definitely having to shed some fat, so to speak, that they have self-induced. It was probably bad for them to hire so many people in the first place, even if the markets were pointing at that, or if AI is actually doing the things that it claims to be doing, doesn't matter. And there's two other factors that go into this that I have covered before. So one factor is the tax code. So I covered this before in the previous stream 1 or 2 weeks ago. there's a tax adjustment that's been made in I believe it was 2024, where companies are now incentivized through tax cuts to hire people outside, like external, not domestic, but I can't remember the correct word. It's the opposite of domestic. So they're getting tax breaks for that, which means that these companies are essentially shedding internal employees, like domestic employees, for the purposes of allowing them to have room to go and get those tax cuts by hiring people external, internationally. So, like the visa stuff that I've talked with, like Eric Weinstein about, for example, that was many moons ago now. But what if with what's his name? I can't remember the Ramaswamy and Elon and all that stuff. This is all connected to that. So it's dumb. These companies, the companies and the people who make these kinds of like tax laws and stuff are just, they're so like hyper focused on one thing. They necessarily blind themselves to what they're doing. But what are you gonna do? Where's Sparrow gonna find a smart individual? I don't know. Laughly on Twitch says at the same time they're looking for twice as many H-1Bs. Yeah. So they're laying, my theory is they're laying off DEIs. I do have a scientific paper that went over a DEI in these big companies, including Microsoft. So we'll cover that. I can't remember if it's today's stream. Is it in today's stream? I don't think so. But I have one. I'm going to cover it soon, so we'll talk about that more. The money saving thing works. Yeah, I think part of it. Vamp on YouTube says, sounds like Microsoft is starting to burst the tech bubble. I saw a title that said it didn't trust OpenAI to create AGI, which means the BS isn't working anymore. Yeah, so I know that, I do know that Microsoft had some rather big deals inked for data center. Like they were going to put in like tons of money into some data centers in cooperation with OpenAI and I believe one or two other AI companies, and they backed out. Part of, I think, what happened is exactly what you're describing, Vamp. These companies were hoping that they would reach artificial general intelligence, and I think that's now becoming an unavoidable, like nobody can avoid the fact that it's not going to happen. It's becoming very clear is what I'm trying to say. And then on top of that, you see that the terms are changing. It's kind of like what happened with like global warming versus climate change. You know what I'm saying? So they're changing the terminology, and they're now calling it super intelligence, not artificial general intelligence, because they realize that they're not going to get to the thing that they wanted. So Vamp, I think you're right. There's an element of, well, we went all in on this, and I don't think it's going to happen. So we better back off now. They're laying off departments, not individuals, as far as I can tell. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. I didn't have a chance to look at it deeply. I'm sure more information will come out. I'm sure people will make statements. I know sometimes employees post stuff on LinkedIn. They're like, today I got laid off, and I noticed like my department got laid off and stuff. So we'll I'll look. I'll keep an eye on it. That's what I'm trying to say. All right. Now in the UK. Generating scuffed text and images is not that valuable. It's just filler content like Lorem Ipsum. Yeah. It's also important to note 10,000 people is a lot to everyone other than Microsoft. Yeah. Yeah, Microsoft's going to be fine. That's right, Prazim. Microsoft's going to be fine. So now in the UK, can anybody guess? Can anybody just tell me? I'm just going to take a second. I'm going to take a sip here. I'm going to sit back. I'm going to chill. Can anybody tell me what's going on in the UK that is causing, let's say, criminal troubles, criminal increases in the UK? And you have to do it in one word. You have to state it in one word. What's going on in the UK? What's the UK doing that's causing their crime rates to skyrocket? And by the way, it's happening here too in Canada. Non-enforcement? Nope. Well, I guess that's part of it. Maybe that's 0.5. Anyone? Shut up, Evil. It's the Greeks. It's React. Mist nailed it. It's React. It's soccer. Yeah, you guys think it's React and soccer and Greeks? They don't enforce any of the laws? Okay. Okay, well, none of you got it right. None of you did. Regardless, that's outside of my wheelhouse to talk about. I thought maybe somebody would know, but I guess none of you know. That's fine. Go look it up for yourselves. Although Prozim has been there. I've been there too. I understand your argument, Prozim, but that's not exactly what's happening. That's an additional thing that makes an existing problem already worse. Frozen food supermarket chain deploys facial recognition tech. So what's happened here is that an Icelandic frozen food chain that operates in the UK has had such an increase in organized retail crime, in organized and targeted retail crime. I believe this is the CEO saying it's out of control. Every single week I see the reports from our stores and read about our colleagues being abused, threatened, and assaulted for simply doing their job. And so now they're doing facial recognition. So 2 stores in England, the Food Warehouse outlet in Manningham Lane, Bradford, and an Iceland shop in Salford, Greater Manchester. And 4 branches are going to be added by October. They have stated, we are not tracking your personal information. We are simply doing facial recognition so that we can protect our employees. Now, some, I guess you could say, like Big Brother watch, anti-facial recognition people are saying this is dystopian and chilling. It violates privacy rights. I can understand that argument. Can fully understand that argument. And the CEO, I believe, if my memory serves me right, yes, that's right. He said, some people will not like it, but I make 0 apologies for it. If I have to choose between upsetting a campaign group or protecting our colleagues from violence, I will pick our people every time. So whatever's happening over there in the UK is unfortunately pushing companies like this to have to deploy what could be considered by many people objectionable measures to protect their own interests. And I see both sides of the coin here. But these are symptoms. Both sides are complaining about a symptom of a much bigger problem. So maybe that bigger problem needs to be fixed. And in no small part, a massive amount of immigration in the name of let's be like lefty kind to people and just allow them to just walk on in mass amounts to the point where the UK's facing the barrel of being completely outnumbered by immigrants who, at least a non-zero amount of them, do not care for their way of life there, and they would like to do whatever they want to do. And then you add in things like bad enforcement or enforcement of improper things that would be like that are still considered dystopian. You put all that together, and I can absolutely understand why a company like this would feel the need to employ facial recognition. Okay, now let's talk about some game stuff, shall we? Games run faster on SteamOS than Windows 11. Really? Lenovo Legion Go S gets better frame rates running Valve's free operating system. Now, I will say that the frame rate tests that they did here for the video games are a bit nuanced. They have some metrics here, which obviously vary depending on what machine you're operating them on. And so the title does not really capture the entirety of what's going on. However, it does find that the SteamOS definitely does perform better than Windows 11 in a reasonable amount of cases. So because of the Steam Deck, which I have right here. No, wait, right here. Okay. They have their own SteamOS, which is an operating system that runs on this handheld video game / PC thing that runs Steam, and you can play video games on it. It's great. It's fantastic. I love my Steam Deck. It's awesome. So what people decided to do is just run some benchmarks, run some metrics to see which would operate better, which would run better for games. And so you can see that they use the Lenovo Legion Go and 2 different resolutions with different graphics settings. And they took the average FPS. Now, again, I just want to be clear that this isn't some kind of gotcha, like SteamOS is clearly better than Windows 11 in every possible way, and like all games run absolutely optimally on SteamOS. But I do think that it is indicative of something. It is indicative that Windows 11 is kind of losing a bit of steam here, and that SteamOS and Valve in general have an opportunity to take the crown, so to speak, as the place to go, the operating system to run, to get everything that you would want out of what people would typically default to Windows for. There is an opportunity here, and I think Valve is going for it. Honestly, I'm kind of glad to see it because we could use a bit of competition in this space in terms of performance. Video game performance has been pretty lackluster in the last few years, in no small part due to some of the stuff I complain and rant about here on these streams. So to have a company like Valve be like, hey, look, we built an operating system, it runs great on, that guy and whatever, and then seeing some of these benchmarks, not all of them. So you can see that in some cases, I believe they talk about it here. So sideloading the updated ASUS drivers, there's some ASUS drivers or whatever, made an improvement in Windows performance. And so this is one of the problems with benchmarks is confounding factors often have a big role to play in what the benchmarks say. But there's something positive going on here. And Valve is going for it, and I'm glad to see it. I have a few more gaming articles. We'll just kind of focus on gaming for a bit because there's a little bit of interest there. Linux performs better than Windows in broad spectrum gaming performance using Proton. You'll get better FPS in almost every game, especially esportsy titles like the finals, and way better perf in Cyberpunk sometimes. If it's gold or better on proton.db.com/explore, it will be better than on Windows, essentially guaranteed. Yeah, I can't speak as confidently as you can, Prosium. You probably know more about that than I do, which is cool. That's fine. I have no problem with that. In fact, I believe you because here's why I believe Prosium. That's Prosium on Twitch saying that. And he has a background in gaming, like esports and stuff. With a Steam Deck, there are very, very few games that I can't play at reasonable graphic settings. That's my personal experience. I recognize that, right? So it's anecdotal. But I have heard this repeated by many others. And that's the kind of competition that I in terms of, performance and operating system in video games, I want to see that. And so Prosium, I think you're right. I think there's lots of indicators that you're correct. I just don't know of them. That's all. I just don't know the details like you do. But I really hope that this trend continues. I think this is a good trend. Having big companies, shoot for performance. Having Windows be like, uh-oh, Valve's coming for our lunch. We better do something. Because what am I trying to say? Businesses probably make up a vast majority of Windows users, but gamers are a pretty significant portion too. And if gamers start ditching, And there's a case to be made for, well, if you can run an extremely complicated game on a Linux operating system, why couldn't you run more of your business operations on it too? Windows might start getting a little antsy and buckling down on some of the stuff that matters. So I want to see that. I think that would be good to see that. Okay, let's do. I have two more. Let's do this one next. There is something going on, however, in the gaming industry. Windows will do something all right. They'll have the 50th Copilot. But yeah, Dever, yeah. So let me pop open this one. Young Americans are spending a whole lot less on video games this year. New data suggests that 18 to 24-year-olds are cutting back on many different categories, with losses most concentrated in games. Now, I have to admit that I came at this article when I first read it with a bias of, oh, it must be because gamers are getting fed up with like woke DEI stuff in games, and they're getting fed up with bad performance, and they're getting fed up with lack of creativity and blah, 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 blah. But the survey that they've done here doesn't really suggest that. It suggests something different, which I thought was worthy of bringing up. I think it... well, I want to have it on record, on live stream on record, in case I need to recall this later. So ultimately, the survey here found that it's not definitive, right? So this isn't like pure scientific proof, right? It's just an indication. Young adults spend nearly 25% less on video game products in a 4-week span in April than in the same time frame last year. It's 18 to 24-year-olds. Other categories are also dramatically dropping, like accessories, tech, furniture. All categories combined, the 18 to 24 age group spent around 13% less than last year. And so you can see that there is a bit of a decline when you look at what's going on with different categories. And they're essentially saying that it's because of money. That's really it. We have a bunch of layoffs. We don't have a massive increase in jobs. We have record high profits in a lot of industries, but we don't have people, just regular people like you and me, walking around with anywhere near as much expendable cash as before. And conventional gamers struggle against the behemoths like Roblox. So it's this really weird, maybe not weird, maybe this is like a very common thing to see. I suppose it is, but it's almost like they're saying, look, money's funneling up to the top, where all the top players in the space are making way more money, and everybody below that has less money to spend on everything. And so just as a general rule, when you spread that out evenly across all the different ways that people can spend, they're spending less just generally, but more is being spent on the big players up top. That's kind of what I got out of this. And I don't know. I feel like there's something here. I'm not going to talk about it much more, but I suspect that there's something going on here that's a little bit more than just like the wage stuff is like a symptom of another cause. And I feel like there's a parallel to something that's going on within the tech industry in general. So I just wanted to cover this in front of everyone, so it's on record in case I need to reference this later. I can always say like, hey, we covered this, and build up to a point. Young adults are most affected by inflation and wage stagnation. Yeah, of course. Pricing. Yeah, that makes total sense to me. Yeah, I would totally market something on Roblox if it wasn't for the undeniable corruption of the platform. I agree. Yeah, I totally agree. I personally can't support Roblox. I don't like my I don't let my kid play it. Like, yeah, it's got all kinds of stuff associated with it. That's crazy. That's just me personally. I realize other people feel differently. That's fine. It's not a moral judgment. It's just me. Okay. This is something I wanted to go over. This is the start. This is in line with gaming. Okay. And It covers a topic that I want to build up on. So I'm going to cover this now, and we're going to build on this topic in future streams. It does tie into some of the stuff we've talked about in the past with things like social media and these LLM systems having the capability to socially persuade you to believe certain things and act in certain ways. The amount of people it can do that to can sometimes vary. Sometimes it's a very few amount of people. Sometimes it's a lot of people. So in that vein, this is kind of like a similar thing to what I did when I covered these studies on like GPS use and spell checkers and how they affect your ability to navigate without GPS or spell things correctly without a spell checker, and manufacture clothes without a machine, etc. So this is a lateral kind of study that I want to get on record. Hang on. AH on Twitch says, also living costs are much higher. Consider this: you need to buy a phone, a car, a computer, a console, a TV, 20 services. That's something that didn't exist 5 years ago. Yes. Yeah. For sure. I didn't think about that, but you're right. The subscriptions that you have to pay for, you never truly own anything anymore. You just have to pay more constantly every month. Instead of paying like once a year, now you're paying monthly for the same prices you would pay once a year. I know here where I live, rental prices have almost gone up by, I think it's like 3 times or 4 times the original amount that they were in like 2020. The expenses here are insane, and it's hard without work. Like I know my debt's piling up, and it's tough, and I'm not alone. There's a lot of even in Canada here, for example, the stats are that most people are living well below poverty lines. Like most people in Canada, I believe it's a vast majority of people in Canada, are having to choose between like basic necessities on an almost monthly basis, if not weekly. So you take those things into account, and it's like, who has disposable cash to buy games anymore? Okay, so this one, mobile and online games using manipulative design techniques to deceive gamers. This is from July 2nd. There's a few other ones that I'm going to go over as I build up on this topic over time. This is how it works on these streams. We slowly cook. We cook, but we do it slowly. So there's going to be a build up here, and it's going to take some time. It's going to take probably a few weeks to get to the point of all this. Popular mobile and online games frequently employ practices that could potentially harm gamers, including manipulative design techniques, incomplete information on loot boxes, and inappropriate in-game advertisements. We know this. I think I'm preaching to the choir, so unfortunately for a lot of you watching either now or later, this isn't going to be news. But let's cover it anyways. Let's get it on record. Gaming industry is rapidly growing in popularity, with an estimated 3.3 billion people playing mobile and online games in 2024. Gaming can be great fun, unless deceptive practices harm gamers. The International Consumer Protection and Enforcement Network, an organization consisting of consumer protection law enforcement authorities from across the globe, examined 439 mobile and online games for unfair practices related to loot boxes, Electronic Arts, I'm looking at you, virtual currencies, pay-to-win models, and influencer marketing. They looked at this between March 31st and April 11th of this year. So some practices that they found: a quarter of games use so-called urgency-style design techniques aimed at pressuring players to make a purchase. Over a third of games use the same tactics to encourage gamers to buy items that are only available for a limited time. In some cases, the timers appear to be bogus. Over half of examined games, so 60%, sent notifications to players asking them to log back into the game to claim some form of reward. And 32% of games pressured players to purchase an item such as an extra life, more energy, or a booster after losing. Now, transparency is a big one. And I know I've personally experienced a lack of transparency about in-purchase items. Game developers rarely disclose their monetization mechanisms. And one of the ways that they do this, one of the ways that they hide what things actually cost, is they have this like virtual currency, and they'll make you purchase virtual currency, which you have a difficult time translating into what it actually costs in the real world. You might understand that you're paying a certain dollar amount, but it's not easy to map that dollar amount, that actual real world dollar amount, to what you're getting out of your virtual currency. And they might even obfuscate it a bit more by making certain things cost more virtual currency than other things. So that's definitely a problem. 84% disclosed on their platform pages that the game included in-app purchases. Information on loot boxes, on the contrary, was displayed in only 14% of the game's platform pages. 3/4 of games, 78%, had some form of virtual currency built in. Of these games, 36% appeared to sell currency bundles that did not align with those of in-game items that were most commonly sold. I have seen this firsthand. I've seen games sell bundles of currency that are actually more expensive than buying individual pieces of the currency, because they just make it like just a touch more expensive when you do the unit to unit measurement, because most people overlook, they won't do the math. They'll be like, oh, it's just an extra, it seems like crap, I didn't say that right. It's like it only ends up being like a small amount extra than the purchasing like over and over and over the individual unit. But because people don't do the math, they just purchase the big bundle and they end up paying like $1 more, and it just kind of escapes their mind that that's what's happening. So there's an age rating that goes into age rating, but not all games have proper age rating statements about the things that are going on within their game. And so there's a problem here, which is that these games can sort of manipulate people, including people who are too young to understand the consequences of purchasing these things. And it can be manipulative. It can be. I don't think this is news to anyone. I think people understand this, and it's been something that's been in the news before several times. But we now have it on record. Protection and Enforcement Network of International Situations. What's the acronym for that? I'm not going to say it because I don't want to give Vamp the satisfaction. Okay, so I'm not saying the acronym for that. Prosium says, not sure how true that is. Oh, you guys are talking about living stuff. Oh, okay. All right. You guys are still talking about living wages. Okay, that's fine. Now, again, in relation to games, we're going to keep going a little bit. We have this thing called Unity Hub, which I didn't know about before I saw this on X. Unity have just released a controversial Unity Hub upgrade. You can no longer create non-cloud projects. We discuss what exactly this means and how you can work around it. So I thought, what the heck are they talking about? Unity forcing cloud projects? I'm like, what? So I had to go look this up. And while I look this up, I'm just realizing that someone tipped. I completely missed it. Whoever did the tip up there, what is it? We went from 98 to 108. So somebody tipped $10. Whoever that was, I completely missed it. I apologize. Thank you for the $10 tip. That's awesome. I appreciate that. The financial support, it means a lot. I really do appreciate it. So, okay. So what is Unity now? I have like Unity Hub. I don't have no idea. So I had to go look this up. Unity now forcing cloud projects. So apparently there's like an online hub, which is just an online dashboard. And the dashboard allows you to create a game, right? So you start a new project. However, if you look at the screenshot, what you can't do is create a local project. It must include, it seems like there's a requirement that it must also exist on the cloud. That's my takeaway. That's my understanding of this. So it will not remove it from the Unity Cloud dashboard. I haven't used Unity, so I have very little understanding of exactly what's going on. But according to what they're saying, so what they said is, this is from them. This is from Unity. Mike Gage, I guess, at Unity made the following statement about the change. So our users have told us many times that they want tons of visibility into what data Unity can collect and how we can use it. So we created the new data framework that launched in the latest beta. This framework gives you control, and the settings for it are in the dashboards. You can control all your project data and service data in one place. This requires a cloud ID to be associated with the project, which is why this is auto-connected. Nothing is being stored online or anything. It's simply there so you have control over your project settings. Probably to store training data for AI, yeah. So I genuinely don't fully understand this. I did go and grab the Unity Hub link. I have it here. And I guess this is a, yeah, sure, whatever. This is what the Unity Hub website says. It tells me nothing about what's going on. Typical homogeneous website that tells you nothing and is just bloating the internet. I wonder how, you know what? Just out of curiosity, how much does this load? So we're getting what, like something like eight shareware versions of Dooms, maybe a bit more, for what? Nothing. Something like that. My math might be off on that. Anyways, so I just wanted to bring it up because I know some of you do use Unity. Like, yeah, Vamp, you use Unity. I know that. So whatever they're pulling here, it just seems sketch. I just thought I'd bring it up. Okay, and then I'm going to cover two more. Okay, we're gonna switch topics just for a minute here. This one I thought was interesting because I did not actually know this information before I read this a few days ago. How large are large language models? So this person basically tried to be as factual as possible about the size of large language models. They had to clarify, none of this document was written by AI. I do not include any information from leaks or rumors. It's on the base models, the raw text continuation engines, not helpful chatbot assistants. This is a view from a few years ago to today of one very tiny fraction of the larger LLM story that's happening. So here's what's happening. Well, here's the history, rather. We had Geppetto 2, medium, large, and extra large in 2019, and their respective sizes in terms of token sizes. It's said that it was 40 gigabytes of internet text. Geppetto 3, well, they don't have an exact size here, but you can almost infer the size by simply doing the math between 1.61 billion with a 40 gigabyte set of training data to 175 billion parameters. By the way, these parameters are, just to generalize it a bit, it's like how many points does the AI system have to like be tweak to get the right output. It's a massive generalization, but that's the more parameters it has, the better it's going to give you output, or so they say. So you can kind of infer the size. And then Geppetto 3.5 and 4, there's no factual information. Llama had 1.4 trillion tokens. That was some of the earlier versions. And now it's almost doubled, I believe, 3.67 trillion in total. That's quite a bit. There's some kind of a new trend, which annealing, I guess, is like, well, you know what? Instead of me trying to remember this from memory, let's just look it up. What is annealing? It's approximating a global optimum of a given function. So another way to put it that I've read this is that if you anneal data, it can also mean that you kind of necessarily have the LLM forget stuff so that it has room to generalize stuff that it already went through so that it's more optimized about going through this stuff. I don't truly, frankly, I'm not an expert in that, so I might be getting this wrong. But anyways, I guess that's what's happening here. And they're calling out that the fact that they're doing this means that the number of tokens that exist can kind of like adjust because of the methods that they're using here to adjust, like optimize the training data and the outputs and, you know, put all that together, and it kind of gets wonky. The DeepSeek stuff, yes, there was a dramatic increase in size with DeepSeek. I don't know if they actually go over the increase in size. Yeah, here we go. So they have they definitely had a huge uptick on the DeepSeek V3 versus V2. You can see a huge I think it was like more than twice, if I remember correctly, in terms of tokens and stuff, which means that the size of the model itself is like pretty large. It would have to be. And then it continues covering this. I thought it was a really good article about like this size and scope of these things. So part of the article, well, I guess this, whatever this document is, they actually plotted the size increase. And this I thought was interesting. I thought it would include this because I have a feeling that I might refer to this later on. But you can see an exponential growth in the parameter sizing of these models going from 2019 to 2025. And I think one of the reasons that I wanted to cover this and get it on record is that as time carries on, there's going to be something to say about the exponential growth size of these models and their tokens and the quality of output we get. And I think there's going to be an ability to compare the output to the size that the size increase of these models and say what the hell's going on here. So I wanted to get this on record. I wanted to cover it and have this reference. I thought this was really good. It was kind of one that I stumbled across. It's not easy to find this one, but yeah, there you go. It's covered now. I have one that I want to go over very briefly. The way I think of annealing is skipping neurons that don't impact the output, giving a particular subset of inputs. Okay. So it's kind of like forgetting, a little bit like forgetting. You don't need the history of Asian neurons to talk about physics. Yeah. Well, unless you do. Pros, don't say never. You never know when you need Asian neurons to talk about physics, all right? You have no idea, okay? You can't say that. You can't say that. All right. So we'll briefly go over this one. Can language models replace programmers for coding? Repo Cod says not yet. This is from June 24th, 2025. What these guys did is they came up with their own benchmark. They were deeply unsatisfied with the benchmarks that are typically used by AI benchmarks to determine the quality of code output for AI systems. And so for example, just before I get to the stats, they were unsatisfied that a lot of these benchmarks don't use real-world coding tasks. They were unsatisfied that the tasks in source repositories were not complex, that they lacked dependencies, that they were narrowly scoped to singular functions, that the metrics themselves didn't match the real-world scenarios of what people would expect to see out of like actual code generation outputs. So they came up with their own rubric, their own metric system, their own benchmark. And they're like, look, F this, we're going to try and make something far more comprehensive. They took, let's see, what did they do here? They took a repository collection of Python as the primary languages. It needed to have no less than 2,000 stars. As popular repositories tend to be well maintained, they had to have multi-functions, a lot of interdependencies. There would have to be, if I remember correctly, there would have to be a what did they call it? Anyway, there would have to be a variation in terms of the types of tasks. So you can't just focus on like one or two types. In real world, when you're programming, you're going to come across different problems, which means that you're going to have different types of code and all of this. So if you read this study, which if you're interested in this, it's a very good one. They really tried hard to make a very comprehensive benchmark. At the very least, it's in my opinion, the best benchmark I've seen so far to test LLMs. Could it be better? Absolutely, it could be better. You could even be more comprehensive than this, but they made it clear right out the gate that they were very unhappy with the current benchmarks. Okay, so all that said, here's what they discovered. To address these challenges, we create RepoCOD, a Python code generation benchmark containing complex tasks with realistic dependencies in real-world large projects and appropriate metrics for evaluating source code. It includes 980 whole function generation tasks from 11 popular projects, 50.8% of which require repository-level context. So they even determined that these benchmarks have very narrow context scope. How can you properly determine that the LLM is doing correct work? And so they even went like half of these require you to have the context of the entire repository, all of its dependencies, in order to determine how in order to get the LLM to give you good output. RepoCOD includes 314 developer-written test cases per instance for better evaluation. Another thing that they noticed about typical benchmarks, they're not written by programmers out in the real world. So they got programmers who are actual programmers who actually have like a real world experience in the industry to write tests for these. They evaluated LLMs on RepoCOD and found that none achieve more than 30% maximum. Most sat at 20%. Yeah. So I believe down here, if I search for 20%. Yeah, right here. None of the open sourced LLMs exceeded 20%. Geppetto 4o had the best result, reaching 27.4%. Now you could look at this two ways. One of the ways would be, well, 20 to 30% is still better than nothing. Whoever it is that just did the follow there, thank you. I appreciate it. And the other way you can look at it is tens of billions of dollars for maximum, absolute maximum, 30% on these benchmarks. I don't think that's worth it. You could take those tens of billions of dollars and you could invest it into human beings who are going to be far more creative with their code and their problem solving abilities. And you're going to get much farther with them. And it's going to have far more long-term positive consequences. So again, the amount of money we're putting into these LLM systems for maybe that kind of output for code generation, I just don't see it. I don't see the benefit right now. I don't think it's going to get to the point where it's going to be worth it either. All right. Now, I've talked about kind of leftism and how it's captured the industry. So I have this last scientific article, and we're going to start building up to it. Like I've said before, this is how we do things around here. We do a slow build up. And we cover things, we lay them out one step at a time. So this kind of stuff is going to take a while to build up to its like the culmination point. But we're going to go over some scientific studies in regards to DEI and gender and the typical leftist ideology stuff that you see and how it's playing out in software engineering. And we're going to slowly build up on these things. Thanks, Prosium. You're probably already gone, but thank you, man. All right. So this is the first one. I'm only going to cover this one today, and then I'll just cover more as time goes on, and then that'll be the stream. Enhancing women's experiences in software engineering. Women face many challenges in their lives, which affect their daily experiences and influence major life decisions. Starting before they enroll in bachelor's programs, setting a difficult path for those aspiring to enter the software development industry. The goal: to explore the challenges that women face across 3 different life stages, beginning as high school students, continuing as university undergrads, and extending into their professional lives, as well as potential solutions to address these challenges. Research method. We conducted a literature review followed by workshops to understand the perspectives of high school women, undergraduates, and practitioners regarding the same set of challenges and solutions identified in the literature. Results. Regardless of the life stage, women feel discouraged in a toxic environment often characterized by a lack of inclusion, harassment, and the exhausting need to prove themselves. We also discovered that some challenges are specific to certain life stages. For example, issues related to maternity were mentioned only by practitioners. Conclusions. Gender-related challenges arise before women enter the software development field when the proportion of men and women is still similar. While the need to prove themselves is mentioned at all 3 stages, high school women's challenges are more often directed toward convincing their parents that they are mature enough to handle their responsibilities. As they progress, the emphasis shifts to proving their competence in managing responsibilities for which they have received training. Increasing the inclusion of women in the field should therefore start earlier, and profound societal changes may be necessary to boost women's participation. Now, they continue by, first of all, addressing societal norms. So essentially what they say is, well, if you look at things like gender stereotypes, if you look at things that happen with kids when they're young, the lack of women role models in these fields and the nature of toys and activities marketed to girls diminish their exposure to and interest in technology. They get pushed away from STEM fields, which means that women who might otherwise end up in STEM fields are kind of discouraged through childhood to do so. The cumulative effect of these means that they orient themselves to other things. It can be isolating, it can be discriminating. Then they enter the workforce, which then adds challenges like balancing work and family responsibilities, gender discrimination, lack of mentorship and career advancement opportunities. And things change as women go through life and they enter different stages of their life. And so they, these kind of problems like ebb and flow and go up and down. So, of course, they point to the fact that the software engineering field remains predominantly men, with women still facing substantial discrimination and underrepresentation. Okay, so they look at related work. Yep, and there's absolutely related work. We're going to be looking at some of those. And part of the reason, by the way, that I'm going over these ones, I know this I'm like, well, hang on. I thought you said like you're going to talk about like how leftism has captured the tech industry. Yes. And I want to be clear that I'm trying to stay as objective as I can, because it's not just leftism. The right wing has done this too. If you think about what the right wing did with video games and violence in video games in the past, they also know how to wield technology. And that's why I constantly say that the space of tech, especially programming, needs to be based on merit and skill. And that excludes ideology, any ideology, left or right. It's just, can you do the thing and can you do it really well? Welcome aboard, right? And so I'm trying to be objective. What that means is that I need to cover these articles or these studies, because first of all, it highlights how these studies are being portrayed and framed, I don't have to say anything. I think most people can already pick up on the framing that's built into the study. It's like packaged into the study. It's already pre-framed in a certain way, and it's embedded into technology. It's embedded into programmers, software engineering. And so you can put two and two together. I don't even have to say it, although I will speak about it later. But I'm going to have to go over a few of these studies to lay the groundwork for how this ties into a lot of the stuff I've already ranted about before, and why this kind of framing doesn't have a place here, right? So, okay, so they go over related work, yes. They do the research method. Their research method is they essentially have to ask three questions, which is kind of the premise of most scientific studies. You ask a question, you try and find data to answer the question. So they go look at literature, they review literature, and then they organize some workshops. The workshops are an invitation for women to come and talk about the literature and the questions at hand. And as a result of those workshop discussions, they start answering the questions asked from the perspective of these women. So they present a bunch of questions, and then it's like, talk to us about like your challenges and what you had to face and things like that. And so, for example, let's see. Let me just read this portion, actually. Table 1 lists the categories of challenges. And so there are, sometimes there are interpretation differences, yada, yada, yada. High school students had to struggle to prove their maturity and choose a career path. There were challenges about, what would you say? A lack of encouragement to look at STEM fields. There was inferiorization of women, gender bias, and harassment. The women said, regardless of their life stage, they frequently experienced being diminished because of their gender. When they're in predominantly men environments, it's even worse. So software development teams or undergrad software engineering courses. They all groups reported experiencing gender biases, reflecting social stereotypes. Cases of harassment, sexual and moral, were reported across all workshops, including serious incidents that required police intervention. Okay, so stuff like that was reported. They talk about it. These women, share their experiences and go like, yeah, this happened to me, and that, and they just, share it, right? So they categorize them, they group them into the experiences that happened, the challenges that they faced. Where it was high school, during like university or college, or whether it was out in the field. Now, let me see if I can find the exact number here. I think I had to infer the number. Yeah, I did. I had to infer the number. Okay, before I tell you the number, let's see. First of all, the primary threat to the validity of this research stems from the variability in the environment, participant characteristics, and data collection methods across the three workshops. The workshop had different settings: school, university, campus, online, which could have influenced participants' engagement and responses. And because the sessions were not recorded, it may have led to incomplete or subjective interpretation. Also, the workshops were conducted in a specific sequence, which could introduce temporal bias. Finally, our workshop is limited by its sample size and sampling strategies, restricting the ability for generalizations. Okay, and what is the sample size? Well, you can tell from the total number of reported incidents just at the total here. So approximately 30. Now, Now that I've read it, okay, I'm going to try and be as charitable as I can be. Is it the case that at least some women experience these things when they're in like usually like a man dominated field? I don't think anyone disputes that. And I certainly wouldn't dispute that. This absolutely happens. However, this is the beginning of a long list of studies that I have to go over, both for and kind of neutral to the DEI, gender, equity, inclusivity, woke, virtue signaling movements that have captured this industry. And I promise you, if you stick this out with me, you're going to be absolutely flabbergasted by some of the scientific studies that have come out, have been peer reviewed, and are being applied as, I don't even know how to say this correctly, but the ideology is being applied in the creation of programming languages themselves. I'm not joking. I've done a deep dive. It's not even funny. It's just a reality. Programming languages are literally being created with feminist ideology as a first-class citizen of the programming language. I'm not kidding. We're going to build up to that. And a study like this is not helpful. What it does is it frames the entire conversation with women do not have any agency. That's the framing. Women don't have agency. They're screwed from the start. And I don't mean that in a, that might be a bad choice of words, but they're set up to fail from the start, from childhood on. They don't stand a chance. And so then the prescription out of studies like these is, well, now we must enforce quotas and things like that because they have been hard done by. But it necessarily excludes the ability of women to actually do the work. And when they do the work, and just like men, when they put in that work, I see no reason to exclude a woman if she can code as well as another man can, and the code is good. I see no reason to exclude, if that's what they want to do and they're good at it, why should I exclude them from that? And I think most people would, if they like just focus on the actual work, they would also agree with that take. But when you have a study like this that says, well, in a male-dominated field like software engineering, you don't stand a chance, right out the gate, you're screwed. Then it takes away the power for women who actually have the merit, who, by the way, we're in desperate need of anybody who can code well. We are in desperate need of anyone who can code well to step up in this industry. But when we tell people like, nope, as a starting point, it's not in your hands. And as a result, we have to enforce things upon the industry in order to put things back in your hands. That's a nonsensical argument to make. And this absolutely has a role to play with how the industry then funnels this into how you code, the thinking, the paradigms of code itself. If you have been watching for a while, I've already talked about the connections between the ways of thinking between right and primarily left. It is unfortunately primarily left thinking, and the way that these people think in society maps onto how they think with the way they structure code. We're going to start pulling the links together here. And in my personal opinion, studies like this are doing a disservice to women. They're not helping women. They're disservicing women, especially when we're talking about just, can you sit down and can you pump out code that people would consider quality, it's performant, it's efficient, and stuff like that. Your gender doesn't matter. Your ideology doesn't matter. None of these things matter. It's just your skill. And if you work hard, you can do it too. And what this also does, I just want to add one more thing, is it discounts the stuff that men have to go through. It necessarily discounts the stuff that men have to go through. If you think that men don't also have to suffer under the same yoke of a ever-changing tech landscape where you are continuously learning, where you're constantly demanded to put in long hours, and where that demand is actually a little bit stronger for men because, men are just supposed to be the people who do the work. And so you kind of have to just shut up and take it and do all of it. It's difficult to just focus on the fact that women are the ones hard done by men. But that's not the whole story, even though it can be true in some cases for sure. Like there are some stupid men who, I've seen it. Like, yeah, it happens. But you begin from a framing with these kinds of studies of men have it easy and women have a problem right from the start and they have no agency over it. So we're going to continue going over these studies. I don't care how many feelings get hurt over it, because the point is not to hurt feelings. The point is to go over what's reality. And the reality is, specifically with programming, it just boils down to, can you prove that you have the merit to do quality work in terms of coding in this industry? And if you can do that, we desperately need you. Is it going to be mostly men who end up in this space and do that? Yes. And historically that's proven true. And I think that's going to continue, and that's fine. But hey, if you're a woman and you can kick some ass, that would be good. We really need people to be doing that. That's what we need to be discouraging. But I don't see studies like this and quotas and HR departments with diversification and all that. I don't see it as helping the industry. I see it as a disservice to the entire industry. And as a third, fourth order result, a disservice to everybody who depends on the stuff we create. Many, many people depend on the stuff we create. So there's a chain effect. Well, Peercoin dropped in a link. Computer programming used to be women's work. Okay, I'll read this. I know that there's some history that people point to with regards to women in programming. I haven't had the chance to go into it deeply enough to be able to speak to it properly, but I do know that exists. That is a thing that exists. So I'm going to dig into it. Thanks for sending this over. I'm going to read it. I like I said, I want to try and be objective and fair about this, right? And it does mean that I'm going to have to cover stuff that like certain people are just not going to like that I cover, but I'm not covering it to, poke anybody. I'm covering it to get to the truth of it, right? That's what I'm trying to do. And so I'm going to have to read exactly like articles like what Peercoin just gave me, Smithsonian Mag. I'm going to have to read it offline at Peercoin and bring it in, but thanks for sending it. I'm going to have to get into some of the stories of women in programming. You can think about like Ada Lovelace, Ada Lovelace. There's some stories around Black women who were involved in some of the NASA ones. I did some cursory reading on that. I'm going to have to do a deep dive, because if I want to talk about this appropriately, then I have to inform myself, and I'm going to do it live with everyone. We're going to go over these things, and we're going to try and get it on record and figure it out. So appreciate that, Peercoin. Okay. So I think that's it. I do have one last thing. Shut up, you stupid feminist. Shut up, Vamp. Shut up. You shut up, Vamp. All right, so I have one last thing. I'm just going to read this, and then I'm going to end the stream. Uncle Bob had something to say about Ada Lovelace in his interview with Prime. I do vaguely remember that, Vamp. I'm glad you brought that up. I'm going to go back to that. Thanks for reminding me. But anyway, I'm really trying hard to be fair, right? So I got to look at this fairly, and I got to go to the sources, and I got to grab whatever I can. It's going to take a while. This is going to be a slow build up. But thanks, Vamp. I appreciate that. And Peercoin. Thank you, too. Okay, so the last thing, it's very, very short. I'm just going to read it. I'm going to leave you with this. If you don't know who Sam Altman is, Sam Altman is the... well, hang on. I just want to get the official title. I want to make sure I nail this. Right here. Sam Altman is the CEO of OpenAI. All right. This guy. Now, Sam Altman has a blog. And in 2013, he wrote the following. So you can see 12 years ago, Sam Altman, blog.samaltman.com. That's where this is from. Successful people create companies. More successful people create countries. The most successful people create religions. I heard this from, I want to say, Qi Lu. I'm not sure what the source is. It got me thinking, though, the most successful founders do not set out to create companies. They're on a mission to create something closer to a religion. And at some point, it turns out that forming a company is the easiest way to do so. In general, the big companies don't come from pivots, and I think this is most of the reason why. And that's it. That's the post. Now we'll draw your attention. This is 2013. It says so right here. Okay, right here on the left-hand side. And I will then ask the following question of Google. What year did OpenAI... what year was OpenAI founded? All right, folks, that's it. That's all I got for the day. I appreciate everybody being here. You guys are awesome. I'll be back tomorrow for sure. I'm going to be back tomorrow. I'm going to be on later. Probably I might hop on. There's some debate stuff going on with Rob and some panel later tonight. Some of you might not understand what I'm talking about, but that's fine. So I might hop on there and do a little mock debate with some people on there. But I'll be back tomorrow for sure for another Daily Tech News stream. My schedule next week is going to change for the week because I've got dad stuff I got to do, some special camp stuff with my kid that I gotta be there for. I gotta be a good dad, so I'll talk about that tomorrow. And I think after that, I might end up doing less of the Daily Tech News stream and swapping 1 or 2 days out for I might pick a day, and one of the days instead of doing Daily Tech News, I might work on the video game. And then on another one, maybe we'll do something like, I don't know, like pick up some really simple programming stuff that some people seem to be interested in. Talk about basic cybersecurity stuff, learn some stuff together. Some people have expressed interest in that, so I'm considering it. So, and then what that'll do is it'll give me an opportunity to kind of focus on more impactful stuff during the Daily Tech News instead of trying to just churn through whatever the news is, because we've kind of beaten the horse, so to speak, quite a bit on a lot of these topics, and the topics that are left kind of require a bit more time and to be more in depth, and that's hard to do on a daily basis. I've got to do my contract work, which is honestly not much, but I got to work my ass off to get what little money I can out of it. I got to look for work. I got to prepare all the streams, plan it, schedule it, do the family stuff. So, it might afford me an opportunity to do better quality streams for you guys. So anyway, I'll talk about that a little bit more tomorrow, but, if I don't see you guys later today, I'll catch you tomorrow. Thanks for popping on. I appreciate it. Stay safe out there. And thanks for all the support. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe. I forgot about that. Yeah, make sure you hit the like and subscribe. Please help me do that. It helps expand the reach. It plays the stupid algorithm game. Hopefully more people can be persuaded by the stuff we're talking about here. And hopefully that's enough to swing the tech industry in the future, because we really got to work on that. Thanks to whoever tipped $10 today. That's $35 in 2 days. I know it doesn't sound like much, but for me, that's a lot, and I really appreciate that. Thank you. All the financial support and the subs on Twitch too, so it's actually a little bit more. I really do appreciate it. Thank you guys. It means a great deal, and it helps me to pay for all this stuff and keep going. So thank you. So yeah, hit the like and subscribe, and stay safe, and peace out, and see you tomorrow or later or whatever. By the way, there were some benchmarks done. There's some benchmarks done on which members of my chat sucked on Windows versus SteamOS. And the benchmarks are clear. Everyone sucks on Windows. So Purecoin, you suck. Laughfully, you suck. Vampire, you suck. AH, you suck. Prosium, you suck. Ghost, you suck. Not a lot of people today. D-Daver, you suck. Mist, you suck. Evil Eye, okay, fine. Evil Eye, you suck too. Abe, you suck. Frozen, you suck. Streamlabs, you suck. And Mist, you suck. And AH, because you're on FreeBSD, you suck 2 times. And D-Daver, because you're on Arc, you suck 3 times. Alright? So all of you suck. You all suck on Windows. Doesn't matter. You can't escape it. You all suck on Windows. Every single one of you sucks. Come back tomorrow and I will tell you yet more ways that all of you suck.